Hey all, welcome to ShareTreck. This is Raj here. Happy Sunday to you all. I was planning to put one more video yesterday, but couldn't get the time to do it properly. So sorry about that. But in today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about Bitcoin versus fiat currency. And I'm also going to discuss what I think is going to be the future for Bitcoin in terms of its value, acceptability, etc. And I'll give you my opinions, and I would like to get your opinions in the comments below. So with that said, let's get started. There's plenty of resources on the internet that will tell you the entire history of currency, the pros and cons and everything. But for today's purpose, in order to keep the video short, I'm just going to limit it to say that the evolution of currency has happened over a long period of time. And at this point, in the recent past, what we have had is currencies which were backed by gold. The value of the gold was represented in the currency more like a receipt of gold stored somewhere. And that system failed because of a few problems. And then we decided to delink gold from currency. At that point of time, the currency became a fiat currency because it was no longer backed by the value of gold. It was backed by the promise of the government or the decree or the fiat of the government that the currency is worth a certain amount of value, and that value will be delivered on presenting the currency. So that's how we have come to the term fiat currency, which is what we use of late. A euro or a pound or a dollar, it's all fiat currency. So there is nothing backing it other than the promise of the government. So that said, earlier when currency was backed by gold, to issue more currency, the government had to buy more gold. And there's a finite amount of gold available. And also there's a limit of how much gold you can have, so that limits the currency that can be in circulation. So that's one of the drawbacks of having currency backed by precious metals, because they are finite, and the growth of the economy is going to be more than finite, I would put it that way, and therefore there should be no constraints on how much currency can be made. However, there is this economic theory that everything being constant, if something is produced, then money can be printed. So if work was done and something of value was produced, the value was printed into currency. That's how money was printed, and that kept inflation under check. However, we came to a situation where we had this concept of deficit financing, where the government decides to print additional currency without work being performed. Another way that could be explained is if you look at the recent COVID-19 pandemic support given by the government. Billions of dollars were given in form of support to individuals so that they can have bread on their table, and also to companies so that they can keep their employees employed. All those kind of money that was pumped into the market without anything of value coming out of it is, in my opinion, deficit financing. There's another way I can explain this to you, which is the positive way. If a government decides that they're going to generate employment and give money to the masses, but instead of giving it to them directly, they decided they're going to build a bridge, and they're going to employ people and pay them wages to build that bridge. And the bridge is of value to transporters because it's going to cut their travel time by maybe 20%. So they're going to save that much of fuel. So now this is productive work, and the money which was pumped in by the government into the economy generated value equivalent to what was put into the economy. So it's not going to create any inflation. So that's the framework with which we need to look. So what we have established is that currently the fiat currency that we have can be printed in unlimited quantities. As the quantity of currency increases in the economy, what happens is the goods become more expensive because now there are less goods and more currency. So as you reduce the circulation of currency in the market, you have a situation where you need less currency to buy more goods. In other words, there is more goods available compared to the scarcity of currency. So this is how the whole dynamic kind of works. Now, we are in a situation where there has been a lot of deficit spending across the world, and we have an economic condition right now where the government is starting to increase the interest rate and trying to mop up all the excess liquidity. And that's why we are seeing things happening in the share market. And this is also affecting pioneering cutting edge technologies where investment has to be made right now so that the benefits and monetization can happen in the future, where genomic companies are involved. That's what is happening out there. So these are the problems with the currency. Once you choose a currency, it has got pros and cons. Now let's look at Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin, for example, is not backed by anything. And in terms of substituting work, what happens is that in Bitcoin, in order to get a Bitcoin, you have to mine Bitcoins. So people go to mine Bitcoin, solve complex mathematical problem in order to get a Bitcoin. And also they, side by side, they also do another task that is of facilitating transactions in Bitcoins. And the combined income is what they get, the income generated by mining a Bitcoin and getting the value of a Bitcoin and the cost of performing transactions. So this is how Bitcoin works. And Bitcoin is not backed by anything, and it doesn't have anybody's promise other than the trust among the participants that they're all going to honor the Bitcoin and value it. So that right now what's happening is there's a process of finding value for Bitcoin. So it will go up and it will come down. And when it stabilizes, the value would have been found. I don't know when that stabilization is going to take place and at what level. It's anybody's guess. But that's about another aspect of Bitcoin. When anything is scarce, it gains value. So if Bitcoin, in case of Bitcoin, there's a limit of how many Bitcoins can be mined, and we're almost very close to it. And once that happens, there'll be no more Bitcoins to mine. Then what would happen is that the people who are mining Bitcoins and also doing transactions will just have to make income through transactions. So there's an opportunity for transaction costs to go up in order to compensate for the Bitcoins that couldn't be mined. And therefore, transaction fees are likely to go up. What would happen to Bitcoin when transaction fees go up? The number of transactions is likely to fall. And if the number of transactions falls, then the value of the currency also does fall because it's not of utility to many people because of the higher transaction cost. So if there is any other alternative available, which has got lower transaction costs, people will migrate to that. So assuming that Bitcoin is taken up completely by the world, this is one of the possibilities that could happen. And if we were to look at the other aspect of having a limited number of coins, is that as the economy grows and more things are produced and the population also grows, there will be need for more currency. And if Bitcoin is absolutely limited to a finite extent, there is only so much it can support the economy. At some point of time, for the economy to grow, there will be need for a substitute for Bitcoin. So that would be the demise of Bitcoin when that happens. And when is it going to happen? I have no idea. It's going to take some time, but I do not know. But that's the reason why coins which have got finite supply or currency which has got finite supply may not succeed. And also, as I mentioned, the higher transaction fees is going to be another problem. And also enthusiasm for people towards Bitcoin might wane once it is clear that no more Bitcoins can be mined. So that's what will likely happen to Bitcoin. Now, coming back to the question of value, what do I think about the value of Bitcoin? I'm a real estate broker, so I always tell my clients the value of their house is what someone is the maximum that someone is willing to actually pay for it. So the market decides what is the value. At this point of time, when you look at the progression of the graph of Bitcoin, you will see that there were times when it was in cents, and then it went up to as high as $60,000, $70,000. Now it is back down. And how low can it go? It can go a lot. We do technical analysis on the graphs on a regular basis, and we have seen the Bitcoin graph and how it has gone. There will be multiple levels of resistance, and how low it can go is as low as 0. But when is that going to happen? Nobody knows about it. I don't know about it. And how soon is it going to happen? No idea. So at this point of time, Bitcoin is very precarious in my opinion from the charts. And I think there can be a further fall in Bitcoin before it goes up. And overall, I think Bitcoin is still going to have acceptance. One of the things that is very important about Bitcoin is the so-called anonymity factor and the borderlessness, because if you were to deal in US dollars, there's a record everywhere that US dollar goes. So there's a money trail, and that's what governments use to impose sanctions. They use it to control crime and everything. So one of the qualities of Bitcoin is that it is very difficult to trace the beneficiary owner. The way I understand it, the blockchain has the ID of the owner, and there's a track of everything that the owner owns. But the point where there is a disconnect is the physical live individual and the ID in the blockchain. And that becomes visible when someone tries to cash Bitcoin for fiat currency. And that's when the authorities are able to make a connection between who is the individual and the ID, and then assign the entire trail of financial crimes to that person. So, having said that, why would Bitcoin be attractive to the average Joe if they are doing whatever they are doing is above board? And most of the people do not deal in terrorism or crime or anything. So that aspect of Bitcoin would not appeal to a major section of the economy, because even if they care about their privacy or something, they'll definitely feel the need for everything to be tracked so that justice can be served. So good majority will be out of that. And when very few people are dealing in a currency, the currency loses value. So those are the possibilities out there. And I have Bitcoins, and my average Bitcoin price is around 47,000. And I don't have a full Bitcoin. I just have a small fraction. I have a fraction of Algo. I have a little bit of Solana. So I have some crypto. I'm not a crypto skeptic or anything, but from an economic theory perspective, I feel that Bitcoin as a currency doesn't have a enduring life. It would be in favor for a certain period of time, but there are going to be better substitutes that will be found, and probably government digital currencies might take over, because at the end of the day, the trust factor is very difficult to maintain because of so many things that are happening every day, even in established companies, like hacking and losing data and all that stuff. And also many Bitcoins, if you notice, have been lost. People have lost Bitcoins in their wallet, which was probably flushed down a drain, or people have forgotten passwords and those Bitcoins are lost. So all those things are also there, which are limiting the supply of Bitcoin in circulation. So to summarize everything, I would say that fiat currency is going to be there for the long run. People are going to use it either in the digital form or otherwise. In a digital form, it's most likely that fiat currencies might follow a blockchain technology. The longevity of Bitcoin and other cryptos is going to become more and more suspect as incidents like the Luna collapse continue to happen. The credibility factor, the trust factor, and other things that are needed for a currency to retain its value get eroded when things like these happen. So I think that for the time being, Bitcoin could be an interesting investment, but it's not going to be a lifelong investment for me at least. So that's about it. With that, I would like to end this session. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch up with you on Tuesday, because Monday I'm going to take a day off, and Memorial Days are on Monday. I'll come back to you on Tuesday. Thanks and a great day. Bye for now.